Thank you for having me today. I'm happy to be here, and I thought today I would go through some of the dashboards that we've created for our share members and answer any questions that you might have. Currently, we have several dashboards that serve diverse purposes and are tailored to meet various needs and use cases. They provide extensive data access, delivering key statistics, trends, and insights from frequently used reports. They also offer support for mandated reporting by simplifying processes for reports like the IPLAR and the traffic survey. And the data for these dashboards comes from Polaris. So the first dashboard that I want to talk about is the Illinois Public Library Annual Report, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So this dashboard enhances efficiency by streamlining key sections of the reporting process. It reduced the time needed to gather and calculate metrics for the questions covered on the dashboard by about 89%. It generates essential data, including unexpired patron counts, registration fees, resources owned, usage statistics, and interlibrary loans, simplifying some of the most time-intensive aspects of the IPLAR. While it doesn't address every question on the IPLAR, the dashboard is a useful resource in tackling some of the most complex data portions. So the first thing you're going to do, put this in full screen, you're going to select your library. And so you just go here, there's a drop down, and you can pull up your library. And then you're going to go to these buttons at the top to navigate through each question. So the first one is 16.1, 16.2a, total number of unexpired patron counts. So the first thing you'll do is go here and select the last day of your fiscal year and click on the date to pull up the pop-up calendar. That's way better than using the sliders. And then your numbers will appear. So here we have resident numbers, non-resident numbers, and other. And here at the bottom, I put some helper text. What resident includes, everything that starts with resident, non-resident is everything that is specifically non-resident, and other is everything else. The next one, if we go to 16.2b, patron registration fees. So again, you're going to click on the dates here to select the beginning of your fiscal year and the end date of your fiscal year, and your fees will come up. And then one thing to note is that if you don't track your fees in Polaris with the patron registration fee, then they won't show up here. Let me just make sure that I'm going to select a library, otherwise some of these load really slowly. Okay. All right, now we get to the 17s and the resources owned. Now this report, it's important to pull it on the last day of your fiscal year to get the most accurate numbers for the IPLAR. If you pull it on another day, it's, if your number of resources have changed, then it will be different. But so pull it, as close to the date as possible. So what you're going to do is go here to this drop-down menu for material type, and I would suggest unselecting all. And then the first one, we have books. So I'll select books. And then the number that you want is the grand total at the top here. And if you grab onto the slider and go down, you can see I've included other material type groups for books, and so you can kind of take a look and see what's in there. If you take a look down at the bottom here, I noted that ILL item and new material are in the other category. So maybe if you know that, most of your new materials were books, then you could go to that number and you could manually change that to books. But I just put it in other so that you could take care of that, and see what you have. So like here, for example, if I go to other, yeah, there's new material. So you say you knew that 200 of your new materials were books, so you'd subtract 200 from this number here and you would add it to books. So you can go through and do that for each of your categories. And now electronic resources, these you'll have to pull from third-party reports and cloud library, and these are mailed to you monthly. And the use of resources. So for this one, again, you'll choose your fiscal year dates here. And because there's not a standardized list to categorize adult, young adult, and children's, you'll need to do that yourself. And another thing is that you might have interlibrary loans that contain collection codes that aren't used in your library. So you should use your best judgment on what those works are. So for example, say we're looking for adult materials, we'll go to collection name here. And then again, I would deselect all. And then go through and find all the adult materials and select them. And as you select them, you'll notice down here that it's putting each category in and it's tallying it up. And so, if I select some more, the number's going to go up like that. And so you go through and select all of your adult materials from this list, and you can go through and check too down here. And so once you have all of them selected, you would take this grand total. And then to get to young adult materials, I would go through, select all, and then select it again so nothing's selected, and then start going for your young adult and so on and so forth. So this is probably the most time-intensive one. Okay, and now number of items loaned. So again, choose your fiscal year dates from here. And then you can go here to category. So like the other ones, if we're going for books first, then select books, and you're going to use this grand total here. And then like the other one, a couple back, in other, we have new material and interlibrary loan items. So these, you can choose where those need to go. And here, interlibrary loans provided to other libraries. Again, select your fiscal year dates here, and then also here in the second one. And you'll have your numbers. So what you need to do is add this number here to this grand total number right here. And some libraries will have two. They'll have in-state and out-of-state for interlibrary loan, and some libraries will have none. So if you don't have any numbers displayed down here, then it would just be this top number. But just be sure that you add these two boxes together. And finally, we have interlibrary loans received from other libraries. And again, select your fiscal year dates, and you will get your number right here. And also see the note down here, if you borrowed any items from OCLC or other interlibrary loan, add that to circulation for items borrowed from other libraries. And that is the IPLAR dashboard. Oh, and there was another thing that I wanted to show you. If you say you are on one of these reports and you want to download what your results, you can do that. You can select to download a PDF here. And what I would recommend, if it's something that's long like this one, to go to specific sheets from this dashboard, because if you do the view, it's going to cut off the results. So this would be this sheet, and you can download it, and then you can open it up, and it will be a PDF. Another option, let's see, if I exit full screen, if you want it in an Excel, you can go here to the bottom and download as a crosstab. And that's that sheet, Excel or CSV. Download, and then you can open it up in Excel. So I guess before I go on to the next dashboard, does anybody have any questions?
Stephanie, we did have a few questions that came.
Okay.
So the first one is, and I believe this is referring to the question 16 on the IPLAR. It won't list out all of the others. Jill, can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, so what I'm curious about, it's like resident, non-resident, other. Is it
Hmm.
just because in your example only that library has that, or whatever our others are, it could be non-resident juvenile, non-resident young adult, it could be business, it could be property owner. Like, though, will those list out when you select my library because they're specific to mine, or they're just blanket all in other?
They're all in other. So I don't have the specific other categories, like, you're saying
Mhm.
property owner or whatever. Those aren't going to be listed out separately. They'll all be put into the other bucket. But non-resident, those will all be the ones that specifically say non-resident.
But it would, irregardless of if they're adult, young adult, or juvenile.
Correct. Yeah. So all of these in this, if you can see down, non-resident includes, and I listed
Oh,
out every
yep,
one. So those are all of the non-resident codes that are in Polaris, and so those are the ones on non-resident. Um, and then up here, these are all the codes in Polaris for resident, and then other are all of the other ones
got
that
it.
aren't
It's
in
hard to
the
read.
resident non-resident.
It's hard to read on the screen because your like
Oh yeah,
viewing thing is a little smaller, so I didn't notice that. Thank you.
sure.
And then we had a question about the 17. Are the
Okay.
names a generic list or or are they specific to each library? So if
Sorry, I
like
didn't hear the first part.
the collection names, are they specific to each library or are those like a generic overview as well?
These right here, the under material type, or all of these, well, all of these come from Polaris, so I didn't make up any of these. And these here, like the audio recordings, books, DVDs, videos, that's the IPLAR terminology, like here. Um,
I asked that question. I think it was in a different one. That one.
is it this one? Yeah,
Yes. So are those like all the collection codes? Like, so they're not specific to my library.
correct. Yeah, so it's possible that your library, like some will be listed here, but your library will not have any of those in your library. But if you're going through and you select it, it's not going to be a problem. It just won't, there won't be one counted since you don't have one. But these are all the possible collection.
Okay. So then, I mean, so part of it is we're going to have to guess, like, yes, an adult DVD is an adult book, but if it says audio, like, we wouldn't know if that's kids or adults or young adults or.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I don't have a way to know that either.
okay.
Yeah.
For that one, I'll jump in
Okay.
on when you're running your IPLAR report. If you were to manually pull the report, print it out, do it the old-fashioned way, which you can
Right.
still do, it's perfectly
Yep.
fine. When you're in that section, if you look at the instructions that we have, um, the for the item circulation or item circulation by collection. You see every collection. So if you were to run your report, Sherry, for your library, you're going to see everything that was even borrowed in from other libraries. And we suggest that um, you get like colored ink pens, colored highlighters, or
Mhm.
whatever, and
Mhm.
then just, kind of use your best judgment as to what was adult, young adult, or children. Because
Yes.
every library, we give the libraries the option to name their collections whatever they want. If they want to put juvenile in it, they can put juvenile in it. If not, that's perfectly fine.
Right. So I mean that's what I do on a monthly basis. I print that report out, on what was borrowed, and I figured out what was kids, what was adult, what was young adult. So I think in the past what I did is I just took the 12 months of data that I had and just added up my numbers. Um, so I mean I appreciate this. It's just that I just think it's a lot harder for this particular
Yeah. And if
category.
anyone is ever curious as to what we have listed as what collection codes you have in place, um, please let me know and I can give you the full list of what we have that's in place for your specific library. Like if you don't have, if your library doesn't use accelerated reader, what is that, 4 on there?
Mhm.
I can give you a list of all of your collection codes that are in place. If you want only to pull up your numbers, I can give you a list.
Oh, no, this is fine. I just didn't know if that was, I mean, I should have realized that, but again, I don't even know what library she's looking at there because it lists everything. So I just know then I'll just do it the old fashioned way for this one.